Welcome one, welcome all to DeFi Crypto and Airdrops, Crypto and Chill Edition. So, fair warning, I might have a little bit of a buzz already, a little pregame. Unfortunately, though, Jeff is not going to be able to make it. He had a little family emergency, we'll just say. So, don't want to put my man's business out there, but he just had a little something he needed to attend to. So, it's going to be just me tonight, and I threw out a link to Druth, and he might airbomb us, and so we'll see what happens. So let's see who we got in here tonight. I know everybody's probably busy being Thanksgiving weekend, but so we're just going to go over a couple things. There might not be some back and forth banter unless Drew shows up, but we're just going to jump right into it. So if you're not, go ahead and come on over to YouTube. Follow us, DeFi Crypto and Airdrops. Get in the chat. Feel free to ask us questions. Anything that you might want to know about DeFi or crypto, happy to answer it for you. For the most part, I'm going to be sipping on my little beverage over here, and we're just going to kind of go over what happened this week and, just kind of freaking shoot the shit. So, if you are so inclined, if you want to follow Jeff over at the Blockchain Report, learn about some airdrops, we got Jake Call. It has some really good content over on his channel. If you want to follow him, these are our brother channels. He is also the creator of Metrics Finance. So if you are not familiar, it is a software that allows you to simulate DeFi positions to see if they're going to be profitable or not, and to track your portfolio. So you can simply copy and paste. You don't need to connect your wallet. You can just copy and paste your address to it, and it will tell you the different positions you're in and give you all the sexy data that you're going to want to see to make sure that you're making money. That you're building, the amount of assets that you have, or you're building the dollar value of your portfolio, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So without data, you just don't know. So great one to follow. Drew over at the Blockchain Basement. Then we got our Big Papa channel is Discover Crypto. And then we got the DeFi University. So both Jake and David at DeFi University are on our Wednesday shows, excuse me. And that's where we go deep into DeFi. We talk about advanced strategies. We talk about what we're doing with our portfolios. We all have very different ways that we go about accomplishing our financial goals. David, he lives off of his DeFi earnings. That's his sole means of income, and does quite well for himself. Again, I won't put his business out there. He can do that on his own. And then Jake, and he has his side businesses, and he's looking to where he wants to just check on his DeFi every once in a while. But for the most part, have it build assets. He's trying to build his portfolio. Whatever the dollar amount does, whatever, he's looking to build more tokens in projects that he is bullish on, which is kind of what I'm doing. So anyway, there's that. So if you want links to Metrics Finance or DeFi University, you can come up here. It's in the channel. Just click on more. It all comes up. Here it all is. And then we also got our DeFi Wise newsletter. So we'll cover that real quick. If you're so inclined, my brother Taylor, who is an attorney in Texas, and he does a lot of traditional investing. He's an estate planner, helps people with wills and trusts and small business formation, tax mitigation, things like that. He's on the Monday show with Texas Jeff. That is, I always get it wrong. It's not a licensed financial advisor, but basically the investing version of a lawyer is the way it was explained to me. So I forget. It's a certified something. It's something. He's credentialed. He doesn't have to give the, I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice spiel. So super cool, dude. They're both on Mondays on Money Talks. And that's where we just talk about the macro. We talk about, just kind of life in general, how we're navigating, everything that's going on financially, and, ways that you can, again, mitigate taxes, protect your wealth. What good is building wealth if you it all gets taken in, capital gains and, this, that, and the other thing. So, or if you get sued or something like that, or you get a divorce or whatever, you need to make sure you're covering your bases. So we try to bring you a little bit of everything here. But anyway, me and Taylor put together a newsletter Monday through Friday. I try to get it out by 6 a.m. I get up at 4 in the morning to put it together. He does his part, I do mine. And I hodgepodge it together and we send it out to your email. And then we also post it on the website. It's $19.95 a month. But again, Monday through Friday, every morning, it's a 5 to 10 minute read. I go through and find like the highlights as far as, like posts of what's going on in crypto and traditional finance, go over, ranges. So trading ranges of what we expect for the day using a quant that we have. And then I'll do on a couple of the more popular, like wrapped ETH USDC pools. I'll give daily ranges, a narrow range and a wider range, just depending on your risk tolerance, what you're trying to accomplish. And then we have a little bit of a team, and we run some stuff through AI, where we just kind of, hey, what's going on in crypto today? What is the macro? What is the news? What is the kind of the mood? Is there more buying going on, or is there more selling going on? Are we bearish or are we bullish? That kind of stuff. So anyway, it actually, in the past 2 weeks, we've been nailing it. So it's exactly 2 weeks today. And yeah, people are loving it. People been telling me that it pays for itself. So anyway, we'll move on from that. I'm done shilling. Okay. So what up, Wispy? And we got Coignet in the chat. Wispy, I'm actually drinking wine tonight. So Apothic is my favorite. They're not a sponsor or anything like that. I just love me some Apothic. It's like a $10, $12 bottle of wine. It's nothing crazy, but the Inferno is actually aged in old whiskey barrels. So it has a little bit of that warmth, that heat to it. Oh, so delicious. So anyway, drinking that. So if you got it, Pat McCrotch, Drew might be showing up here in a minute. Yeah, I know, right? That prick better show up. If he wasn't so big, if you didn't if you didn't spawn such a giant, I'd spar him in one of those matches. But the guy has like what is he, like 6'4" or 6'5"? Like his wingspan's probably as tall as I am. Oh, so yeah, what else we got going on? Oh, 19 Crimes. 19 Crimes is a good one. That's the one where you can actually scan the label and it does this little animation. Kind of cool. 5'5". Okay. Yeah, no, he's a big boy, man. He must be from Wisconsin, up there with all the Scandies. He's like a Viking or something. So, all right. So let's get off this. Let's see what else we got going on. So this is something I ran across. Let's get into some crypto real quick. So Ondo secured a European Union regulatory approval for tokenized stocks and ETFs. This is interesting. You haven't heard a lot, and there hasn't been a lot of price action on Ondo lately. People have been getting bored and wondering if they should get out. I've heard a lot of rumblings. Not going to say who, not calling anybody out. But Ondo is a sneaky little sly little devil. It's been going around, and let's pull up some freaking rwa.xyz. All right, let's see. Ondo is not dead, Pat McCrotch. It is not dead. Well, who knows? Maybe it is. But I have a bag of it, and I'm bullish on it. I wish there was better DeFi opportunities on it. All right, so let's take a look. Let's pull up Ondo. All right, let's look at some data. You know me, I'm all about the data. All right, so $1.8 billion of distributed asset value, 105 different RWAs are on it. 41,000 holders, monthly transfer volume 869 million. Looks like, I mean, it looks to be building, just kind of stair stepping its way up. So you got, here, let's do this. Ondo short-term US government bond fund. Ondo US dollar yield, Ondo US dollar token. Oh, that's that, what I think it's OUSD. So that's their stable coin. iShares, you got iShares core S&P 500 ETF, Invesco QQQ, iShares. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Ondo tokenizing the stock market, the New York Stock Exchange? Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. Pretty sure that they were the ones that were tokenizing the New York Stock Exchange. Like I said, I pregame, so I'm a little loopy right now. Wispy. It's okay. You can call me out. All right. Yeah. No, absolutely, Wispy. I wish I could put my Ondo to work. I have not found any good liquidity pools or anything to do with my Ondo. It's like I want to do something with it to build that bag, but I just cannot find anything good. But back to what I was saying, it's building. It's stair stepping up, and that's overall. That's why I'm bullish on RWAs and DeFi. I mean, for the first time, really, in a long time, we've leveled off a little bit. It was just going parabolic there for a minute, and it's leveled off a little bit. But I just wonder if this is the calm before the storm, because obviously institutions and governments and banks and just all these different big players, they understand the power of tokenizing commodities like gold, oil, silver, stocks, bonds, private credit. So you got commodities, US Treasury debt. So you have US Treasuries, bonds, and stuff like that. I mean, pretty much real estate's starting to get traction. I haven't seen a whole lot of it, but fine art. So you can tokenize fine art, and basically it makes illiquid things liquid. If you can legally transfer ownership, through an NFT, that kind of like you would if a deed for a land title or a title for a car, if that can all be tokenized, yeah, and they see that it eliminates a lot of the intermediaries, the people that are in the middle. If you've bought a house or you bought a piece of property, you have to use a real estate agent, and they're supposed to go through all the public records and make sure there's no liens against the title or the property. Make sure there's no lawsuits, that there's nobody claiming ownership, whatever. Just all that legal stuff. If all that is on chain, and all the information is there and it's stored, and it can just go through and automatically make sure it's a free and clear title, on a car, make sure that there's no accidents, make sure it's not a salvage title. It can all just be done automatically, and you don't need a Carfax, and you don't need all that stuff. They see the value. They're building this stuff out. It's whenever anybody talks about price, in our Discord, or if I'm on social media or whatever, whenever anybody brings up price, I just shake my head, because I'm just like, that is such a short-term emotional mindset. It's part of how I wait if I stay in a project or if I get out. But for me, it's what we're looking at right here. It's data. If all the information's on chain, or out there to find, using AI and, tools like this is stuff that people usually used to pay a lot of money for back in traditional investing. to get like real solid real-time data, I mean, this is a game changer. So this is what I lean on. If I see that a project like Ondo, we just looked at it, it's stair stepping up. There's been no dip off. There's been no decline in the TVL and what's being built. You look at overall with RWAs, you see it's just going up. More and more stuff is being tokenized. DeFi. Let's head on over to fucking DeFi Yama. All right, here we go. Here's the Yama. So let's go home. So we got a total TVL of 122 billion. We peaked out at about 165. We have had a little bit of a drawdown, but we went from 165 to 122 billion. Not too bad, with the amount of pullback that we've had, since Bitcoin was at 125, 126. Not too bad. So anyway, if you're in the right projects and you've done your research, and I don't mean just listening to people like me that, get drunk and, talk crypto online. I'm just another dude. I spend a lot of time researching this stuff. I mean, I'm retired. It's, how I occupy a lot of my time. If I'm not outside choring or working out, I'm pretty much learning about crypto. It's infinitely interesting to me, the way that it evolves and how fast things change. There's always something, that catches my interest. So and I love poring over data. That is probably my favorite thing about it. It's just going, being able to pull the curtain back and see what is going on with this project. Is there liquidity being bridged over? I mean, I can, you can go to add metrics and you can add just about anything. So, I can add DEX volume. So across all the different decentralized exchanges, this is the volume, and you can look at it, how it's married up to the TVL, if they're moving together, or if you can add, what else we got here? Perps volume, stablecoin market cap. So let's see how long this takes to pull up. Yeah, look at that. Stablecoins, just steady growth. I mean, it didn't pull back as hard as the rest of it did. There's so many things that you can look at just to understand what's going on. Let's see. Let me see if Drew messaged me. Nope. Pat my crotch. Tell your boy to jump on. Tell him to get his fireball, his little plastic bottle of fireball, and jump on. All right. Oh, DeFi Don, what's up, brother? What's up, brother? He's from the DeFi University, David's DeFi University. That's where I met him. He's been hanging with us for a while. Oh, Wispy got back into your KTA wrapped ETH, dude. That thing is printing. Here, I'll show mine. I'll show you mine. All right, hold on. I'm gonna have to share a different screen. All right, let's see. Do. No, not that one. There we go. All right. So as you know, I'm not one of those where I'm weird about showing my junk. I have no problem if I lost money, if I'm not making money, if I made a bunch of money, I have no problem sharing my DeFi positions and stuff. I know, and maybe I'm stupid for doing it. Maybe I make myself a target. I don't know. But anyway, that's what this channel is all about. It's all about transparency, the truth, and freaking just being real. Show you, this is my journey. If I screw it up and I lose everything, then you're going to be witness to it all. So, but so far it's treated me really, really well. So, wrapped ETH KTA, I have a 72% range. This one down here, I think I got about a 78. So basically about a 75% range. We'll split the uprights. And even though, and this is the lowest it's been, about 200% APR. I've been in range for weeks and weeks and weeks now. And my deposit is more than I deposited. And I've made a couple $100 off of each pool. So, I mean, I'm up probably 400, $500, just from letting about $1,800 sit in there. So I'd say I'm probably making. I think I did the math the other day. I think I was making like 1% a day, and I could be off of my math. I apologize. I probably shouldn't have said that. When I did the math the other day, that's what I came to. But again, it's I didn't like crunch numbers. I just kind of did some head math. Use my fingers and my toes. All right, let's see. Yo-yo and drinking. All right, I appreciate it, Pat my crotch. Yeah, I hate listening I hate listening to myself talk for like 45 minutes to an hour. Mine's 76 spread. Perfect, Wispy. You're probably making about 200%. And that's not too shabby. I'm still bullish on KTA. Not a whole lot of news out there. It's been beat up like everything else, but it's a good earner. And and I'm peeling off my profits. And whenever I harvest, I'm doing it in both wrapped ETH and KTA. So I'm building, half of it goes into my KTA bag and half of it goes into a wrapped ETH position. So I'm basically DCAing on KTA and wrapped ETH at these prices and lower when it was, down lower. So that's the way I look at DeFi is I'm building assets. It's like, I don't care if the dollar value goes down to an extent, of course. But, I'm not going to get into pools on memes because I don't believe in memes long term. But wrapped ETH and KTA, this one's at a range right now. My wrapped ETH, Coinbase wrapped Bitcoin position. This is one of them. I have one over on Aerodrome, but this one right now, I'm all in on ETH. I'm still bullish on ETH. Who cares? I have a bunch more ETH than I had when I got into the pool. I'm not in any Bitcoin, but once ETH starts pumping, as long as it outpumps Bitcoin, which historically it does, if we get any kind of alt season, and who knows at this point, but still long-term bullish on ETH. So I'll just let it sit there because I'm basically hodling ETH. If it goes back into range, I'll start earning again and it will start selling off ETH into Bitcoin. Okay. DeFi is that easy. As long as you're not, glued to your deposit amount, as long as you believe in the assets and the assets, end up doing good, of course. That's why I'm so selective about where I put the majority of my liquidity. Majority of my liquidity is in, ETH, Bitcoin now. Aerodrome. I'm very bullish on Aerodrome. I'm earning, what was it? I think it's like every 2 days, I'm earning about 150 Aero between my locks, my liquidity pools, and everything. I think I'm making about 150 Aero every 2 days, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's like about $75, a day that I'm making. Okay, and it's an Aero, so if price go up, so does that dollar amount. So if Arrow at some point ends up being $2 again, or if it ends up being $10, I'm going to be a pig in shit. I'm going to be rolling in it. So, oh man, sorry, got some in my eye. I had to crawl up in the attic today, do some work, so got some insulation in my eyes. Yeah. Yeah, Wispy. 100%. Freaking $75 an arrow. I'm not complaining. I'm just letting it build. And when it gets to enough, I'm going to do another lock. At this point, I'm just going to keep creating locks, getting that free flight school bonus. It's only like 15%. This last one that I did. So I locked 2,500. Um, I locked 2,500. Drew just texted. He's not gonna be able to make it. Um, and got 385. So I think it was like 15%. The first one I did, I got almost 50%. But it seems like as more time goes on, the more people that are locking, the more that the flight school is getting diluted. So yeah, I mean, just be warned. But again, a free 15%. You deposit, you put it in the VE Max Aero Maxi Relay. You have a your Coinbase wallet and Coinbase was it Coinbase One? I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Coinbase One. It's the $30 a month that you pay for Coinbase if you want to do like their advanced plan where you don't get charged as many fees and stuff like that. But you get a 1.3x multiplier for having that with your locks. Because of the relationship between Arrow and Coinbase. So anyway, it's right off the bat you get that, and it's in a separate lock. So on your main deposit and the flight school bonus, you can vote either manually each week before it ends on Wednesday 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and earn yield, or you can put it in a relay where it just automatically votes for you and tries to maximize what you get. Usually around 30% APR or APY is what you're earning. Is a kind of good rule of thumb. So sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. But 30% for hands off, again, if you're bullish on Arrow long term, because obviously you're locking for anywhere from a week to 4 years. So definitely don't do it if you're not. Now you can liquidate it on secondary markets. There's auctions, where you can go kind of like a Craigslist for NFTs, locks. You can go there and say, hey, I have a 5,000 Arrow, lock. You list it on there. It's all done by smart contract. They buy it. If as long as the crypto that they use to buy it from you, shows up in the escrow there, it gets released. They get the lock, you get the payment, and you can go do whatever you got to do with it. You got a car you need to get fixed, you got a medical bill, need groceries, whatever it is. So there's ways of getting out of them, but you're going to take a hit. Probably like about an average of about 20%, 30% of a hit you're going to take for basically wanting to get out early. So it's just kind of how it is. But the new Aerodrome platform that's coming out Q2 of next year is actually going to have an exchange natively on it to buy and sell. So it's also an opportunity to if you want to buy a lock, do the math and make sure that it's a better deal to buy an existing lock, make sure the discount you get is more than you would have gotten with a flight school bonus and the compound, weekly compounding yield and stuff like that. If you have any questions about that, hit me up in the Discord. I don't want to go too much into depth here, but yeah, just make sure that whichever one is going to earn the best for you. So there's that. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. I tend to ramble when I get drinking, case you haven't noticed. Here, you know what? Here's this. But anyway, Wispy, absolutely. Fucking KTA is earning awesome. So let's end that. And I will share this. I found this really freaking interesting. So check it out. So this is the amount of ETH on exchanges. So you can see this is back to December of 2022. So 3 years ago. You can see it's slowly, there's been, Ethereum being sucked out of exchanges. And then it went up a little bit, but look at what's been going on. It has been since about, for the most part, let's say June of this year, it's just been a steady decline. And what that tells me is that people believe in ETH long term, and they're putting it in their wallets, or they're using it in DeFi. That is the only two reasons I can think of to pull it off an exchange. So that's bullish for DeFi, and that's bullish for ETH. Now, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Shamalama ding dong. Look at that. So obviously, it's since March of 2024, so last year, you've seen that it's been slowly petering off. But now look at this little South Pole candle. What's the date on that? November 21st. So like a week ago. Look at what happened. It dropped off a cliff. So there is a bunch of Bitcoin getting sucked off exchanges. Again, very bullish, because if it's going off exchanges, it's probably getting DeFi'd. People are putting in DeFi, taking loans out against it and stuff like that. So again, bullish for DeFi. So that's why that pool that I got, going back to that, where I have a ETH Bitcoin pool. It's why I don't care. It's a full range pool. I'm earning like 3-4% on it. Not gonna get rich on it, but I'll always have an equal amount of ETH and an equal amount of Bitcoin. And as long as both of them are going up, it's just going to stay balanced. Dollar wise, it's going to stay balanced. I'm looking for the long term. Can I yank it if Bitcoin or ETH starts going parabolic? Absolutely. Honestly, I probably won't. They're pretty correlated. I really just want to have that treasury and just have that steady income, just trickling in, the yield and then the appreciation of the assets. Just always, watching my portfolio just build and build and build. It's kind of what we were talking about with Arrow, with the locks and stuff, the $75 worth of Arrow current value per day that I'm earning. I mean, that's more than most people make. And I'm not bragging, about myself or anything, but some jobs out there, $7,500 a day is more than a lot of people make at a day job. And I'm making that in full range pools and locks. I don't even have to look at those. And of course, that's if Arrow sticks around. I personally think it is, but who knows? All right. What else we got in the chat here? DeFi Don stalks his rewards. I think he meant stake. I'm always fat fingering. I stake my rewards on Camino, and the APY boosts are crazy on the lend borrow side. Yeah, so DeFi Don, he's in David's DeFi University, and he's pretty religious about every day, Monday through Friday, being in the live calls, the hour-long live calls. And so he's also in our Discord. If you ever have questions, he's another good one to ask. I can't stress it enough. We have a great community in the Discord, and a bunch of people in there help me keep the riffraff out. So we have a really clean Discord as of right now, and a lot of really good people in there. If their name is in red, they're a mod. They can be trusted. They're people that I personally vetted. And if they're gold, of course, me and Jeff, the blockchain report, we're both in gold, and then there's a bunch of people who are red, and then there's orange as well, and that's the people who get the newsletter. But most of those are good, solid people too. But there's a bunch of really good advice that gets thrown around in there. As always, though, make sure you do your own research. But again, anybody that's scammy at all, if they spam stuff, they get booted. So, we would rather have a small, tight knit community than have, a bunch of people just spamming the shit out of it. We don't, we're all here to earn. We're all here to be profitable. We don't get married to our bags. We'll talk shit on our own bags. If you're looking for an echo chamber, that confirmation bias where you're just going to hear that your project is going to fucking, make you a gazillionaire, this isn't the place for you. This is the place for reality checks. I have people in there that call me out they're like, hey, Plume is taking this shit. You still bullish on this freaking shit coin? And, and I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey, this is what I'm looking at. I'm bullish, still bullish because of this, and this. And everybody needs to make up their own mind. And if somebody's like, you know what, sorry, I'm out on Plume. Cool. You know what? You got to do what you got to do with your bags. They're your investments. I'm not paying your bills. I'm not going to look at you any differently because you decided to get out of a project and put your liquidity elsewhere. It's, sometimes there's some shit that people say in there that I'm like, I might need to take a look at some of my positions. Am I still this bullish, that bullish on this? Like a black for a long time. I was in a full range pool and that thing was printing. I made my money back and some on it. But it slowly got to a point to where I was like, it's not earning like it was. And I'm not that bullish on the project. I could be wrong. Black could do amazing things. I just didn't see it anymore. That's the choice that I made. And I put it in the Discord. I'm like, hey, you know what, guys, girls, I'm out on black. It's, a VE33 model, just like Aerodrome. I'm a lot more bullish on Aerodrome. I moved it over into Aero, that liquidity. The yield that I earned on it, I spread around a couple of different things. But the main deposit, I bought more Aerodrome with it. I consolidated. You know what, C90? There is nothing wrong with that. You're out on Ondo. I was showing some bullish stuff about it earlier. Ondo secured an EU regulatory approval for tokenized stocks and ETFs. It's bullish. Does it mean that it's gonna, fucking moon tomorrow? No. Does it mean that I'm bullish on it, long term? I'm already kind of bullish on it long term. I've already seen what, that it's gradually building as far as TVL. But there's only a couple of people that are really at the table right now, as far as tokenization. You got Centrifuge, you got Ondo, and a dusting of other ones. There's some Supra. Was it Supra? I've been on a bunch of Mario New Falls lately, and I've a couple days I've done like two in a row. So sorry, it's all kind of blending together between doing these shows and doing those and everything else. I get kind of burned out. But anyway, yeah, it's tokenization is not going away. And really, until a major chain, either emerges or gets, upgraded with 2Ds for a double dose to where it natively has tokenization on it. I don't see Ondo or Centrifuge going anywhere. So, yeah, there's that. Not to mention, Yeah, I won't go down that road anymore. Joseph, do not, do not make me challenge you to a thumb wrestle. If anybody tells me they're all in on XRP, I I pity I pity your genetics. Um, yeah, that's the only way I can think of putting it. Is I feel bad. You came from a very shallow gene pool, the shallow end of your gene pool. You should not be all in on anything. Maybe Bitcoin, but for the most part, you should not be all in on anything, and especially not XRP. Um, will XRP make you money? Absolutely. 2, maybe 3x. And personally, anybody that watches me more than 5 minutes knows I had 40,000 XRP. It was my largest holding. I built bags all through the bear market. I listened to every channel. I dug through every piece of Ripple freaking white paper and all their documentation and kept up on all the goings on, and I still do. I sold all my XRP and got into Arrow and a bunch of DeFi stuff, and I'm glad I did. I sold the pump. I got out at about $2, but I was buying when it was like in the 30-cent range. So I made a good profit and moved on, and I've made a bunch more money since. So I'm not crying myself to sleep. And if I am, it's on the piles of $100 bills. So just kidding. Not that much, but anyway. So yeah, but I I was super bullish on it. The perfect example. The fundamentals changed. They launched RLUSD. And for me, that was the nail in the coffin. Other people might see it differently. The way I saw it is RLUSD, that Ripple was talking to all these banks, and the banks were saying, we do not want to use a volatile asset to move value. If we send $1 billion, we don't want to lose $20 million because the price of XRP shifted. We want the amount that we send to show up on the other end. And so I believe that's why Ripple came up with RLUSD, was they needed a stable coin to move the value. And that was the whole thesis of why XRP was going to, have to be some astronomical valuation, was so that it could move the value. That Swift and everything was, going to use, the XRPL for. Now, except in very specific use cases that still has to use XRP. XRP is just a gas token now. It's that simple. And I know that there's some XRP people that don't believe what I just said. And I've challenged XRP people to come on. Come on, prove me wrong with data and analytics. You know what? I'm going to do it. Screw it. We're going to go to the actual XRP ledger. So this is XRP scan. This is the actual data straight off the XRP ledger. I'm going to go to the metrics. All right, we're going to go down these. So you have the number of payments from one account to another since December. Here, let's go to all. So all, you see that it's been growing. Now let's go for the past year. For the past year, it's actually been declining. So there's been less payments in the past year over time. Let's not dwell on that. Let's move on. So over the past year, XRP payment volume from one account to another. Same thing. It's declining or staying flat, however you choose to look at it. Not a whole lot of growth going on there. And you look at this, number of active users. All right. October of 2025, it pumped up. Credit where credit's due, but it's just been flat since. Number of active accounts over the past year. It declined and then been flatlined. Like no heartbeat, flatlined. Number of active accounts. XRP burned as fees. So if you don't know, the cost of the gas for a transaction on the XRP ledger is 0.00001 XRP to do a transaction. Next to nothing. That's what's so great about it, is it's super cheap. But this is the burn rate. A year ago, there was a spike. It was decent, petered off, flattened out, petered off, flattened out. It's declining, stair-stepping down. Less XRP is being burned. What that tells me is there's less transactions being done. Let's keep going. Number of transactions executed, pretty much flatlined. There was a spike here, but about 2 million. Boom, all the way across for the most part. Number of successful transactions executed, pretty much flatlined over the past year. Not up and to the right at all. Number of new accounts created, pretty much. There was a bunch of action back here. Same action. For the most part, flat. Average number of transactions per ledger, pretty much flat. Number of closed ledgers, pretty much flat. Average number of seconds between, that's not interesting. But for the most part, all of the data for the XRP ledger is no growth. No growth. Now, let's go over here to rwa.xyz. And this isn't me just trying to FUD XRP. This is why I got out of XRP. I'm just sharing my journey. If you have data, I would love to have somebody come on from the XRP army or Ripple, or I don't care who it is. If I'm wrong, come on and show me how I'm wrong, because all I'm doing is pointing at data. This isn't my personal opinion. This isn't my gut feeling. This is data. That's why I love data. I do not allow emotion to dictate how I invest. I don't allow emotion to dictate how I act in my personal life. Emotions are the enemy, in my opinion. So I try to be as Spockish as possible. Oh, excuse me. All right. So rwa.xyz. Let's go to the XRPL. The XRP ledger. All right. So we do got some decent growth here. Again, the data. You cannot argue with data. So not a whole lot of growth on as far as TVL. RWA holders, this can be deceptive because whenever new, and this is on other ones as well, sometimes you'll get these crazy numbers like this, 361,000%, whenever something's onboarded. So take that one with a grain of salt. Stablecoin market cap, however, that means the amount of RLUSD that's being minted. Because that's the only stable coin really that's on the XRPL. So this is all RLUSD, very bullish. Stable coin holders. And this is the amount of people that hold RLUSD. That's growing as well. So their stable coin, RLUSD, is doing great. But keep in mind, let's scroll down. This is the largest part of the value as far as RWAs. Their stable coin is $235 million. of the value. So now let's click on Ripple USD. Look at how much of it is on Ethereum mainnet, where XRP isn't even used as gas. So the majority of the value of basically everything that's going on with XRP is in RLUSD, and the majority of the RLUSD is on ETH motherfucking mainnet. There's only maybe 20% on the actual XRP ledger. Now remember, all that data that I was showing you about the XRP ledger was pretty much flat or declining as far as usage. So most of the value that's going on is on ETH mainnet and Ripple. If XRP was going to be some astronomical value, why would Ripple be selling, that monthly escrow that comes out, that unlocks? Why would they be selling that when they have billions in their treasury that they're always buying these companies with? I'm very bullish on Ripple. I actually tried to buy the pre-IPO. Jury's still out. I might have lost a couple of grand because I got into on a platform that declared bankruptcy. It's just a couple of grand, but it's a couple grand. But very bullish on Ripple. They're buying up companies. They're signing stuff with people, and they're hucking and jiving. I think that they're angling to be a bank, is what I think they're angling to be, and they're selling XRP to build it. So everybody out there buying XRP, I hope you're bullish because you're helping Ripple. You're funding Ripple to build a company that you have no legal right to. So remember that lawsuit that I was bullish on, that I was excited about when they lost the loss, or when Ripple won the lawsuit against the SEC, and that XRP wasn't a security? We should have been pissed, because if XRP was a security, that would mean that they had a fiduciary responsibility to us. That would mean that if it was a security or a stock, that we owned part of Ripple. That would have been awesome, because I'm bullish on Ripple. But it was judged to retail that it was not a security. So they have no legal obligation to holders. They can endlessly dump on us and use that liquidity to fund operations for Ripple. And they owe us nothing. Let me say it for the people in the back. Ripple owes you nothing. They have no obligation for a price go up on XRP. And again, it's a super cheap gas token now. Again, if you're bullish on XRP, if there's a lot of people out there smarter than me. I'm not pretending to be the smartest guy in the room. Come on here and show me with data. Don't show me with boom posts and they're in talks with, and there might be a partnership with. I don't want to hear that bullshit. I want you to show me data. Show me how I'm wrong. I'll admit it. If you can show me that I'm wrong, I'll shut the hell up. Yeah. No, and trust me, don't fade hype. It's XRP is hyped on social media a lot. So personally, I think that's about the only thing that moves XRP's price. You saw the ETFs don't. They launched those ETFs, and those ETFs there's a bunch of money moving into those ETFs. Is the price move? No. That's one I won't speak too much on, because I don't know if over time, if because of the amount of money going to those ETFs that they have to, back those with actual XRP. And if it gets to a point to where there's a supply crunch that, maybe that will make price go up. But ultimately, what is XRP worth? If it's not a stock in Ripple, if it's not a security, and if it's not what's moving value on the XRPL, there's really no value to it. If it costs 0.00001 XRP to do a transaction, you don't need a whole lot of it, unless you're a bank, and then you might need, I don't know, 100,000 or so. Will probably last you for a couple decades. I don't know. I haven't done the math on how much they would need. How many you'd have to look at, like, say, J.P. Morgan Chase. How many transactions do they do in a year, and then multiply that by 0.00001, and that would tell you how many XRP they would need per year for operations. So if any of you guys are smarter than me and know where to find that information, I could probably find it at some point. But yeah, so that's my 2 cents on XRP. But again, please, if anybody out there has data that says different, all right, what does C90 got to say? C90 always got smart shit to say. Hold on, let me pour more of a drink. I think real wealth can be made on hype or misinformation. Absolutely. No, absolutely. However, I'm starting to think that those days are coming to an end. So what traditionally we're used to in crypto has all been retail driven. And retail is emotional little bitches. If the wind blows wrong, if somebody farts, freaking, they're like meth heads, freaking, they're jumpy as shit. So any kind of FUD comes out, any kind of anything, Bitcoin, wakes up and decides it's going to, move by 1% or 2%, and everybody shits the bed. We've all seen it. That's retail. Institutions don't move like that. The more institutions come in and they're buying up, Bitcoin and Ethereum, and we looked at the data, they're buying in mass, and they're moving it off exchanges. They're putting it in DeFi. They're putting it in cold storage. They're self-custodying. They're doing whatever with it, but they're not leaving it on exchanges. The data shows it. We went over it. So they're fudding the shit out of emotional ass retail. And while retail sells, they're buying. And they're buying over the counter. They're not buying on exchanges for the most part. And whatever they're doing on exchanges, they're doing it to where it doesn't move price, because we've seen price isn't doing shit, but they're buying. So they're getting it somehow, but it's not moving the price. So again, they're smarter. They're gaming the system. So the only thing we can do as retail is watch what they're doing, because the data's on chain. We go over it all the time, and do what they're doing. Don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. And that's what I'm doing. So that's why I'm bullish on Arrow. That's why I'm bullish on ETH. That's why I'm bullish on Bitcoin. That's why I'm bullish on Plume. The data. Where are things being tokenized? Where is liquidity going? Who's building what and with who? And not rumors. Who is actually launching no bullshit freaking live platforms, live protocols, live projects on these chains and actually moving value? That's where my liquidity is going. So anyway, all right, what do we got going on? Ain't they lose money as a business? I think you might have drank more than I'm drinking, Don. What the hell? I don't even know what you're trying to say, brother. All right. So C90 says he's 3 bourbons in. I don't have nothing smart to say. Appreciate you, Mike. I've been MIA with my new job. No worries, brother. We all got lives, man. It's anybody that watches us enough. Yeah, absolutely. I want to grow the channel, but for the most part, it's just to get the good word out there. There's way too many influencers out there that care way too much about making money, and to each their own. I'm not saying this as a negative thing. I'm not talking shit on them, but you have to look at their motivation. It's if they're here to make money, if they have to do the sponsorship thing and they have, lights to keep on, employees to pay, they're running a business. I'm not running a business. It's me and Jeff, and up until recently, most of it's been out of pocket. We just enjoy doing this, and talking about crypto and teaching people about crypto. This is the part of the military that I loved, was teaching people. It's like one of my favorite jobs in the military was I was the training NCO, and so my job was to make sure people got the training that they were supposed to receive. So yeah, I love teaching people. It's just what gets me up in the morning. That's why I get up at 4 in the morning to do the newsletter. Is I'm helping people make money and make them, a better life for them and their families. I mean, what more rewarding thing can do? It's, teachers, they're out there, teaching kids, getting paid shit. I have 2 parents that were teachers, didn't get paid shit, but my dad was a special ed teacher that his whole career, I think it was like 40 years or something like that. And then on the side, he like volunteered his time. I still need to get him on the show and interview him. Um, but anyway, yeah, I won't go down that road. I'll save it for the interview. But just fucking living saint. The guy's a living saint. He's Taylor, that's on the show on Mondays. It's mine and his dad. So, all right. Sipping that Kevin Hart tequila. Also thinking about Zbeck Quant and Metal blockchain while sipping. All right. I don't know anything about Zbeck. I held Quant. It was one of my biggest bags back when I had all the ISO tokens. I had HBAR, I had XLM, I had, XRP, all those. I was holding Quant. I sold it all. Not to say that anything, I honestly don't really have a strong reason. I just got into DeFi and there wasn't a whole lot of DeFi plays on it. And I've never heard of Metal. But hey, you know what? It doesn't mean they're not good projects. Oh, all right. All right, we're almost to an hour. Let me see. Let me blaze through a couple of things. What do we got? All right. So we got old Donald Trump on Truth Social. He just signed a document that supposedly where all of the what he claims sleepy Joe Biden used the auto pin to sign. He's claiming that was approximately 92% of them. Again, this is Trump. Don't quote him. I'm sure the auto pin was used, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. Supposedly, everything that Joe Biden signed as president, if it was signed by the auto pin, is hereby terminated and no longer in force or effect. It's not allowed to be used if approval is not specifically given by the president of the United States. I don't know how much this is going to affect, but it was in the news. What else we got? Let's go through the bookmarks. So here, we talked about Ondo. Here is the Europe's tokenization market reached 1.19 billion in 2025 and is projected to hit 4.28 billion by 2033. So people are saying they're bullish in the EU on tokenized assets. We looked at that Ondo news. where they secured the EU regulatory approval to tokenize stocks and ETFs. I dare say that more is going to get tokenized than what they're claiming here. You mathematically can't compound your way into wealth anymore. 20 years at 7% returns with 3% inflation and 40% taxes, best case, you 1.5x your investment. That is why kids, you have to you only live once. Yeah, that's why I'm not holding fiat. That's why I'm in DeFi, is I'm trying to outpace inflation. If you're been adulting the past couple of years, you've watched rent go up. You've watched interest rates go up. You've watched the price of utilities go up. You've watched groceries go up. Everything has like doubled and tripled, as far as cost. Has your wages doubled or tripled? I dare say no, unless you got like a raise or promotion or something like that. Got a new job, but you're not getting massive raises, like that. So it's not keeping up. The buying power of your dollar is going down. So that is the big reason I'm in crypto and in DeFi, is I'm looking to plus up. I want to outpace, that Pac-Man that is gnawing away at the buying power of my dollar. So that's why I'm okay with sitting, in those pools I was showing with wrapped ETH and Bitcoin. Do I think that wrapped ETH, or ETH and Bitcoin are going to appreciate faster than the dollar is declining? I think so. I hate to say it. I wish we had a strong dollar, but the data doesn't support it. With the debt, that we have, and the unfunded liabilities and everything else. So, right here, tokenized stocks go global. We went over that. Aerodrome, in the past 10 weeks, Aerodrome has generated nearly 50 million in revenue, while Aero emissions exceeded Aerolocks by only 4 million, earning yield while functionally maintaining circulating supply. So this is something that's going to play into the deflationary aspect of the new Aero token that's coming in Q2. They're saying it's going to be 85% deflationary. That is one of the reasons why I'm why I'm stacking Aero so feverishly, is I am bullish on Aero. It's, if you don't understand the tokenomics or the mechanics, come in the Discord, or you can actually, you know what? I'm going to talk to Drew about doing an updated Aero deep dive. As soon as we have we get closer to the launch of the new platform, me and Drew will do and I shouldn't speak for Drew. I'm going to pressure Drew and Pat McCrotch, help me out, to do an updated deep dive on the new Aerodrome platform and the new Aero token. Maybe we'll even see if we can pull some strings and see if we can get somebody from the actual team to come on. I'll reach out to TJ over at Discover Crypto and see if they know some people. And that would be a really cool episode to do. All right. Yeah. Pat my crotch. Yeah. We need to put the thumb screws on Drew, and I'm sure we won't need to. Yeah, he'd love to do it. But yeah, let's work on that episode. That'd be a sick episode. I think I already released this. I threw this in the Discord. It's a really long thread, and I went over it in the last episode with Jeff. I think it was on Tuesday. But basically, a bunch of really cool fucking alpha on the new Aero platform and the new Aero token that's coming. It's they did a nice little release on it. If you're interested, go watch the last episode that we did on base and Aero. We went in depth on it, and even pulled out Miles to explain some stuff that I was doing a shitty job of explaining. Well, I think that's about it. I think I might go grab me something to eat. Druth needs to pile into DeFi anyway. He's been remiss, dude. You're preaching to the choir, McCrotch. McCrotch is preaching to the choir. Um, yeah, no, he has deployed some, but he has yet to sit down with me and gotten real with his DeFi. Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely I'd love to hook him up with like some of those full range pools on Arrow. Those are a really safe bet to just stack Arrow, just 24/7, 365, just constantly stacking Arrow. But yeah, just you got to put your assets to work, man. Do what your risk tolerance can handle. This will be my closing thoughts. Whatever your don't let your mouth write checks your ass can't cash. That's how it goes. But do whatever your risk tolerance allows. Me, this is play money, and not to say that, my portfolio that I'm just okay if it disappeared tomorrow. Don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted. But it would hurt for sure. But I would, no matter what, I'd have a roof over my head, food on my table, the lights would be on, I'd be warm, dry, I'd survive. So not a huge deal for me. Now, some people out there, they lose their portfolio and they're done. So watch episode 8 in our DeFi Academy. If you're, kind of want to get in depth about what I'm talking about how to build out your portfolio, it's a really, really good episode. Actually, you know what? I'll show it real quick because it really, really is. It should have been the first episode, but all right, let's do this. So right here, episode 8, passive income masterclass, build a bulletproof DeFi portfolio. I highly suggest you watch this. It's going to explain my whole thesis. So I use lending because I get full price appreciation if something pumps, plus I'm earning yield. It might only be like 2-3%. It might be 10%. It might be more, but you're always earning and you get full exposure to price appreciation. No brainer. There are risks, smart contract risks. And if it's, what's the wording I'm looking for? If it's custodial, if the platform custodies your assets, there's a risk there. That's why I don't like using platforms like that. But you're always earning. Staking, always earning. I don't like long unlock periods, but I digress. And then full range pools. Full range pools, you don't get full price appreciation. But like my Bitcoin wrapped ETH one, it's always keeping them balanced. So I'm just, basically, it's buying one and selling the other all the time. But just as long as both of them are going up, my portfolio value is going up. And I'm always earning. It's a win. Win-win, 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 win. Win-win. It's all winning. We're winning. And then small bits of my portfolio. I do range positions and looping and, mess around with stuff like that to, boost my earning. But for the most part, full range pools, lending and staking. Done. Long term, you're just going to grow. As long as, you don't get hacked or something like that, portfolio is always going to grow. So anyway, check that out. All right. Let's look at some of these comments on the way out. Dude up top asking if Ondo is dead. Yeah. No. You know what? It's all good. It's I don't want to shame people for asking the question. But that being said, you need to go look at the data. Every episode I talk about RWA.xyz and I talk about DeFi Llama. They should be bookmarked. Both of those are bookmarked for me. I check them every morning. Whenever I'm doing the newsletter, I'm always looking at those things because I want to know what the market's doing. To let the community know, but so I know. But no question's a stupid question, but we're giving you the tools. We're showing you where to get the data yourself. Again, don't just trust me. I'm just some old retired military vet that lives in the woods in a cabin and talks crypto. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Am I learning a bunch about crypto and DeFi and trying to share it? Absolutely. Am I going to, hit everything going to be a winner? Absolutely not. So, you got to do your own research. All right, let's see. Dude, I heard people killed themselves when the market crashed October 10th. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is people need to stay unemotional. It's people need to stop chasing get rich quick. If you can get rich quick, you can go broke quick. Slow and steady wins the race. Unless you got money to just throw away. I mean, unless you have money that you would be willing to throw at a stripper, knowing that you're not going to get anything out of it. You're just throwing money at a girl on a pole or a dude on stage if you're a girl at a strip club, or maybe you like girls or whatever. Yeah, unless you're willing to sit down at a blackjack table or a roulette table or something like that and just accept that money's gone, do not lever up. Do not loop. Do not take high loan to value loans out on your assets. If you got $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, don't take out an 80%, loan on it. Because if Bitcoin, if you took that out at 120K, when Bitcoin was at 120K and it dips down to, 100K or 90K, you just got liquidated. I mean, you still have the loan that you took out. You still have 80%, but you lost 20%. It's when you take, leverage out on a trade, same thing. And God forbid that you have cross set, to where it, has access to all your liquidity to keep you from getting liquidated. And there's a big dump and you lose everything. That happened to a lot of people. When stop losses didn't trigger on Binance and stuff, when all those shenanigans went down. You need to understand the risks before you get into this stuff. I can't stress it enough. If you don't know the risks, then your best bet, buy Bitcoin and chill. Just buy Bitcoin and chill. If you're not willing to put in the work and learn about a project, like really learn about a project and not just listen to an influencer, if you're not willing to put in the time and the effort to learn how DeFi works, don't just try to copy somebody because, it might not end well. So, ladies, gentlemen, I appreciate you showing up. There's a bunch of you in here. I know it's Thanksgiving weekend. And sorry you had to listen to me yammer on for an hour. But I'm getting hoarse, talking way too much. But I appreciate all of you and hope you have a great holiday. And until next time, Veteran Crypto out.